Welcome everybody to the University of Arizona Knowledge River session of InfoCon. We're grateful to be here with Dr. Berlin Loa, who is an assistant professor of practice for the University of Arizona's School of Information. And she works with the Master of Arts in Library and Information Science with a specific program called Knowledge River, which I highly value as being representative of diversity for our specific school. So Dr. Loa today is going to be speaking a little bit about how Knowledge River works and how it relates to accessibility and policy. So I will give the time to her.
Thank you so much, Eric. So as Eric mentioned, my name is Berlin Loa. I'm an assistant professor here at the University of Arizona iSchool, and I also manage the Knowledge River program. My areas of research and study are primarily in cultural heritage informatics, and so that's information access and preservation, primarily in material culture, so that's archives, artifacts and museums, books and libraries, that kind of thing. Can I share my screen? Am I okay to do that? While I'm getting access to share screen, I'll just continue here. So those are my areas of study, but before coming to the University of Arizona iSchool, I worked in engineering technology startup companies. I had a career in nonprofit programming and management and human services. And then I went to work in museums and archives, primarily in working with cultural heritage preservation. And I mention this because all of this experience fed into where I eventually landed in my career in museums and archives. And it's really important for folks to recognize that your background, your experience that you have lived to date comes with you to your master's program in library and information science. So that's important, but it's also important to know that the folks that you work with when you come to a master's program or an undergraduate program such as those here at the iSchool, that you're working with folks with a wide variety of experience and background and knowledge that they bring to the field. So while somebody may be teaching one specific course, there's a breadth of knowledge behind that they bring with them to these courses. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, I think, and then we'll get started. Let's see. I do this. It's always a little funky to know how this is going to. Okay, so Eric, can you tell me, is it the full screen is the slide?
What I'm seeing is a breakup. So I see on the left your slide, and then on the bottom I see the other slides.
Sorry about that to the attendees. And this is going to be in the recording. Quite embarrassing. Okay, let's see if I can change that. Nope. Eric, I'm not seeing the controls to stop share. For some reason, that's gone for me. Okay, you know what I'm going to do is I'm going to just go ahead with my presentation, and Eric, if you could stop the share, that would be great. So okay. Just with my share option. So what I wanted to talk today about is the University of Arizona iSchool, and until I can share the slides in such a way that's useful, I'm just going to go ahead and talk over. So, and feel free to interrupt me if you have any questions throughout this presentation. So the University of Arizona iSchool, our mission is that we explore the intersections of people, data, and technology. So we look to empower a diverse, equitable, and inclusive future through this use of information, through the application of information. We work with in this way that converges data and machine learning, interactive, immersive, extended reality, digital culture, and society. And we partner across the University of Arizona, across the state of Arizona, nationally, internationally, and locally. What's really important is we connect with community locally to apply the theory that we study and teach within the iSchool. So let's see if I can maybe share just this image. Okay, so what you should see now is the full slide deck. But what I wanted to share here is a school snapshot, right? So this is what our current enrollment looks like. We have a PhD in information. We have an MS in data science. I won't read all of these off to you. But we also have an MA in library and information science with 5 related graduate certificates that you see listed here. So I share these numbers here, not because the number of enrollment is important, but just to show the wide breadth of interests that our students share. So they come in for all sorts of different reasons: game design, information science, games and behavior, etc. There's a wide breadth of interest in these programs. You can see that undergraduate certificate at the bottom has 1 major enrolled. It's a fairly new graduate certificate that undergraduate certificate that we've just added. So we expect to see that grow. And like some of our previous presenters mentioned, our iSchool also started primarily with a focus on libraries and librarianship. And we were originally housed in the School of Education. We've obviously grown since then to include technology, data, artificial intelligence, language recognition, game theory, all sorts of a variety of things that we're involved with. So what I'm here to talk to you about today, though, is the Knowledge River program. I mentioned earlier that I manage the Knowledge River program. So I want to share with you that the Knowledge River program is a graduate program here at the iSchool, and it's a part of the master's degree. So folks who are enrolled in Knowledge River earn their master's degree in library and information science. And at the same time, they're enrolled in the Knowledge River program as a Knowledge River scholar. There is a high expectation of excellence for those who are enrolled in this program. They first apply to the MA program and get accepted, and then they apply to the Knowledge River program to become a Knowledge River scholar. So it's an additional aspect of their graduate school experience. And folks are vetted for their interest in working with and alongside BIPOC communities, their interest in cultural awareness, and their interest in working with community. So the program, which is now in its 21st year, was designed to recruit and support BIPOC scholars who are interested in library and information science. These are folks who are going into cultural heritage informatics in libraries, archives, and museums. And we primarily work with and alongside Latino / Hispanic. So there is a focus in this program on critical cultural awareness. So I want to share with you a little bit about the Knowledge River by the numbers, and then we'll go into the sort of types of things that Knowledge River scholars are involved in. So here you can see a breakdown of our enrollment of Knowledge River over the last 20 years. These statistics are from 2017. So we don't have the most recent numbers, but this is near enough that it gives you a snapshot of what our enrollment looks like. Overall, in the KR program, we have served and enrolled 60% of our students have been Latino or Hispanic self-identifying, 27% who self-identify as Native American from a variety of tribes, and you can see that 13 of those 13 individuals of those 27% identify as Navajo, and then 13% that are either mixed cultural heritage or not self-identified with a particular cultural ethnicity. Our gender breakdown is right now, well, as of 2017, about 81% are female and a smaller percent male enrollment. That aligns pretty closely with what's happening in libraries nationwide, with a primarily female identifying gender in staff of libraries. And then I wanted to share where some of our colleagues have gone. So the futures and careers of our KR scholars coming out of the iSchool, 15 of those have gone on to doctoral programs, 2 of them into an additional MA programs. And then we do have almost 95% graduation rate of KR scholars, which is pretty high for a graduate program. And a lot of that comes from the types of support that I'll share with you in just a minute, the core elements of KR that we'll get to in just a minute. So I wanted to compare the Knowledge River by the numbers with national numbers for MLIS graduates in the US population. So this statistical chart on the right comes from Library Journal in 2012. So again, not the most recent number, but ALA is working on ALA and ACRL are working on updated numbers. Okay, so as you can see, we generally tend to graduate from KR, 60% Latino/Hispanic, 27% Native American. Compare that to what's happening in the US population and in 2012 graduates of library schools. And you can see that the field itself is still primarily white identifying, and it's sort of the field is at 84%, while the nation is at 63% at this point of these statistics. So you can see there's a bit of a disparity there between what our communities look like and who's serving these communities. So it's important, right, that we have a program like KR to engage BIPOC scholars in the field of library and information science and bring them into the field as professionals who can then impact services in local communities. So I want to share here the core elements of Knowledge River. It's a cohort experience first and foremost. We bring a group of scholars in each academic year who join as a group, as a cohort, and follow through their MA program as a cohort. This begins with a KR orientation. It really is almost a week-long seminar in which this cohort works together to learn critical cultural awareness, to learn aspects of their own self-identity and how that impacts their work in the field, and then learn about cultural, ethnic, and racial issues happening in library science and in the community as a whole, so that they can put that to work for them in libraries, archives, and museums. We provide internships. In fact, the MA program requires internships of all graduate students in the MA program. But KR works specifically with BIPOC scholars to find placement for internships that support their learning goals and their research goals. One of the key aspects, I would say, of the Knowledge River program is financial support. We know historically and collectively there's a disparity in the enrollment of BIPOC folks in higher education to non-BIPOC folks in higher education, with BIPOC folks generally taking on greater levels of debt, which impacts their long-term career earnings, long-term professional development, ability to travel, etc. So this is a really important aspect, and that is that students are placed in GA positions that support their tuition, or they're provided a scholarship, and they receive professional development travel funds, which help them to attend professional organization or association conferences like ALA, SAA, which is Society of American Archivists, AASLH, and others. So financial support is hugely important to BIPOC scholars. And the secondary, if not, I can't really say whether the financial support or this other aspect is more important, but I want to say they're almost equally important. And that is the graduate assistant placement. It's our partnership program where we work with libraries, archives, and museums in the community to place our graduate KR scholars into one of these libraries, archives, or museums in order to learn by doing. So they're placed in one of these institutions. They work under the supervision of a professional librarian or archivist, and they do practical projects while they're learning theory. So they're putting the theory that they're learning in the MA program to work in the community, working with one of our library partners. It is one of the most important aspects, if not the most important, probably equivalent to the financial assistant, in order to minimize the amount of student loans that some of our BIPOC scholars may have to take. So with that, I want to share this video, and I'm hoping that that this works smoothly for us, because hearing the impact of a program like this on students in their own words, it speaks for itself. So let me go ahead and play this. This is a KR scholar from an earlier cohort, KR9, I believe.
I decided to come to library school and focus in archives here at Searles and as a Knowledge River student. And thanks to the UDOL Foundation, I'm able to work as a graduate assistant. As a Mexican-American woman, I want to see my history in an archive. And it's such an empowering process to have your history where like the history is held, And I think that's one of the main reasons why I decided to be in this field. During the Mexican Revolution, people gathered arms and kind of wanted to fight the dictatorship of Porfirio Diaz. And after the revolution was over, a lot of people didn't want the church to be as influential as it was in Mexico. And a lot of people did. And these people called themselves Cristeros. And they were a part of the Cristero War. And we have documentation of that here. And we just got an aggregation or an addition to this. And I was able to do an item level list of every material they had. Well, this is just a story about the Cristeros. Por el mundo los hombres pasamos, el futuro destino buscando, y en el mar de la vida bregando, a luchar con el genio del mal. You don't imagine seeing like this history here, or you're touching this history here, the history that you grew up hearing. It's just all these little connections that I never thought about before. Every day I come to the archive, it reinforces why I want to do this for the rest of my life.
That's such a perfect quote. Let's stop there. That's awesome. Well done.
So as I mentioned, that is one of our KR scholars from KR9, I believe. You can see just this passion and drive to work with cultural heritage materials that are culturally important within our community here in the Borderlands in Tucson, but also nationally, to tell the story, the greater story of our national culture. So this is sort of an example of where Knowledge River really supports the goals and the mission of the iSchool as a whole, which is this intersection of people, data, and technology. We work with BIPOC communities to support cultural heritage preservation and access within the community. This student happened to work at Special Collections, which is a UA library here on the UA campus, but many of our students go on to work with our local public libraries, with local university campuses other than U of A. We have several working at the Arizona State University, some at Northern Arizona University, and have gone on to work in other fields that I'll share in just a minute here. But we also work to support existing projects in the community. So, it's not always a matter of Knowledge River scholars coming in and doing work for people, but rather it's doing work with people. As an example, we're currently working with a local Black archive that has been collecting its local history for over 50 years. And those archives, those materials are not currently part of any of the larger institutions here locally, so they've developed their own archive. We have KR scholars working with them to work on their collections, to work on preservation, to work on digitization. So we have projects like this where we go in and work with the community to support the work that they've already begun, because many of these communities are already doing the work of cultural heritage preservation on their own. So we bring this knowledge and sort of bridge what we know of theory and technology with the people doing the work on the ground. So here are some examples coming out of our KR graduates. The image is an artistic rendition of Nancy Godoy, who is the director of the Community Driven Archives Project at Arizona State University. The image itself was created by Jasmine Torres. She's a KR19 who began as a graduate assistant working on the Community Driven Archives Project and has since graduated and is now the archivist for the CDA, or one of the archivists, I should say, for the CDA. So you can see that when we pair folks with these organizations that are doing the work on the ground with communities, they often get engaged in such a way that not only leads to their future careers, but also helps them connect with community in a way to build long-term relationships. This is Annabelle Nunez. She is now the Associate Director of UA Health Sciences Library. She is one of our earlier KR scholars and has sort of worked her way up through the library field to this position of director. She also happens to have a background in theater. However, her focus now is in connecting regional libraries with health sciences, data, and materials so that it's regionally accessible across the Western states. Mario Villa, he's a member of the Chiricahua Apache, and he's now a PhD student at Syracuse University, studying and working on his research on indigenous digital technologies. So he's really looking at the future of indigenous data technology, what it means to not only the practical implications of having digital access, which, you know, if you're in this field, you learn about the digital divide, but not only the practical implications of delivering digital access to these communities, but how these communities put that digital access to work for their own preservation and needs. Jessica Varela, she's an executive officer in the Office of Digital Transformation at the FDA. She's had a long career with the FDA, almost right out of graduate school. And this is an example of how, while the MA degree is in information and library science, and many of our KR scholars focus on library science, that's not to say that you will work in a public library, which is what many people think when you say library school. There are all sorts of places that people can go with this type of degree. Many of our scholars go on to work in digital technologies. Some of our scholars on the MS side are working with artificial intelligence language recognition, virtual reality and game theory, and of course, places like libraries, archives, and museums, which is what I come out of. So that's about it for what I have to share today. And I'm gonna open the room now for any questions or comments. If you have a question on the iSchool as a whole, or on the KR program specifically. And before I do that, I just wanted to say thank you to Eric Gonzalez, who helped me pull together the numbers that I shared earlier on the screen. He's the admin manager that you see here on the screen, who's hosting us today. So I'm going to open up the room for questions. You can feel free to put those in the chat or just shout them out. I'm going to put a link in the chat here for the Knowledge River program. So if you're interested in learning more about the program or learning more about the iSchool, you can find us there. University of Arizona iSchool enrollment applications open every fall and spring. So there are 2 different times of the year that you can apply to the program.
Okay, well, it doesn't look like we have any questions. Thank you, everyone, for participating. We do have a question from A. Santos. For online students, with the timeframes be different for applications? So the answer to that is actually yes. So we give our AZ Online students an extra month to apply to the MLIS program. I don't know if that's true for Knowledge River. Do you have the same deadline for Knowledge River for Maine and AZ Online?
Yeah, we have a single date application for Knowledge River. So every spring the application opens, and it's the same whether you're online or in person. And that's usually due like mid-March.
Good question. Any other questions before we close up? Okay, I think that's wraps up our InfoCon session for today. Thank you to everyone for participating, and especially to Dr. Berlin for leading this wonderful session. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.
Thank you.